welcome everyone to the Makino Die Mold Tech Center in Auburn Hills, Michigan. My name is Brian Coward. I'm the product line manager for EDM at Makino. And today we're going to be talking about tooling and setup techniques for sinker EDM. I'd like to point out that on your screen there for this presentation on the right hand side you'll see a chat and a Q&A section. Anytime during the presentation, if you have any questions that you think of and anything that comes to mind, feel free to type in your question in either the chat or the Q&A section. And at the end of the presentation, we will answer any questions that you may have. So today I just want to go over what we're going to be discussing. So this is part one of a part two presentation that we're going to do. Today we're going to be talking about the sinker EDM tooling. Next month we will be going over some setup techniques utilizing that tooling. Today we're going to go over to the three main systems that we use here at Makino. We've got Erowa, System3R, and Hirschman. We'll give you examples of each and some unique features to each one. Once we do the presentation, we're going to go to the showroom and we will show some tooling overview, some tool changes, and some holding examples of all three systems on the showroom floor. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Robinson. He's our EDM team leader at Makino, and he's going to go through and give us some technical details on all of this tooling. So Dave?
Thanks, Brian. Yep, as Brian said, I'm Dave Robinson. I'm the applications team leader here in Auburn Hills. So what we're going to go over today is the three different OEMs that we use as far as sinker tooling, and then some of the unique features and some of the unique holding types for electrodes with each of these three manufacturers. So the first one is Erowa. So you can see here an ITS chuck. So this is one of the primary tooling systems we use on our machines here in Auburn Hills. So you can see the Erowa style chuck. This is the Erowa ITS chucking system. So they do have some other styles they call compact. So a little different than the ITS. So as far as repeatability goes, very, very repeatable. 2 micron repeatability on the Erowa ITS system. It has a clamping mechanism with a self-locking ball closure system. And it uses a centering plate for its chucking accuracy. So that's where that 2 micron repeatability comes in from that centering plate that's unique to Erowa tooling. So you can see here, this is the compact version. So this chuck will accept the ITS, and also the internal center will accept the compact side of it. So this is a two-fold style chuck. So very, very nice system to have both. And here's some of the Erowa tooling hold systems. So some different types of electrodes. So the first one in the bottom center there, this is what we call the reference plate. So the reference plate is what is used to center that in the chucking mechanism itself on the sinker. So this is its locating feature. So these centering plates can be used to create custom electrode holders with the Erowa ITS system, or this is what is the centering on all of the standard systems. So bottom left corner, this is what we call a uniholder. So these uniholders could be flat, they could have a slot in them. The customer could mill their own shape or create a shape in there. So these are a very common system. So this is what we call a 50 or 50C. Upper left, this is a square holder. So basically used to hold 15 millimeter square electrodes. It uses a pushing system, so it pushes from the corner to lock the electrode in place. Next, top center, the ITS slotted holder. So this is a 72 millimeter stainless holding system. Very nice system. Next, in the upper right corner, the ITS 72 square. So that's also a 72 millimeter electrode holder. Uses a square, and then it uses set screws to push that electrode blank into each of the sidewalls. So almost like a V-block style holding system. Bottom right corner, this is our compact holder. So this is the smaller version, so you can see the slots in the top of the electrode holder. This is the locating, a little different than using the centering plate. So it uses a centering plate feature that's built into the electrode holder, into the compact holder. So one of the last ones we want to show you, this is a collet holding system. So this uses an ER32 collet system. So you can see the collet up inside of the collet nut. And then on the right hand side, there's a collet set. So this is the ER32 size set, collet set. You can also get these in 16 millimeter and even smaller size collets. So very, very flexible holding system for round. So next we're going to go to System3R tooling. So you can see the System3R chuck. So somewhat similar as far as repeatability, actually the same. So this is what we call the System3R macro chucking system. It has the macro standard. It's 2 micron repeatability, so very, very accurate system. Uses X and Y references made of cemented carbide to prevent wear to those locating systems. So with Makino, we buy the System3R chuck, this macro chuck with those cemented carbides instead of the steel to prevent that wear. So that's something that's unique to the Makino system, that we purchase a very high-end chuck to put on the machine from System3R. And then one of the nice features of the System3R macro, it's a reference pallet that locates directly on a single plane. So here's some of the examples of the System3R tooling that we want to talk about today, and some unique ones to System3R. Again, the reference pallet, or instead of the plate on the Erowa system. So you can see in the bottom center there, this is the reference pallet. So again, you can make custom holders using that reference pallet. So that reference pallet again is used to do the XY centering, and then also the Z is what locates off that same plate. Bottom left-hand corner, so instead of the compact system, we have a compact combi here on the System3R side. So a smaller style drawbar, but can be used with the macro system as well. And then the most common, the macro drawbar. So you can see bottom right hand corner, standard just macro drawbar. Square macro holder, so a very commonly used holder for square holding. So 1 inch square, this is the square macro holder, upper right corner. And then in the center, 20 millimeter shank collet holder. So the 20 millimeter system's been around at least 25 years. So a very common holding system in the shop. So it uses a collet system in that 20 millimeter shank that goes up into the holder itself. And then our gate holder in the upper left-hand corner, so something very unique to 3R. This is a gate holder, so to burn on an angle, you can see the small holes in that holder. This will index that holder to set the electrode or the gate electrode to a specific angle with a pin. So nice for doing gates that we can set to an angle, and not a lot of setup time put into that. So last one we want to talk about today is the Hershman tooling. So this is what we call the Hershman System 5000. So Hershman System 5000 chucking system. So you can see the chuck here on the screen. So again, 2 micron repeatability, so very, very repeatable. So we can take this tool holder from machine to machine, or from the graphite mill, or copper milling, right to the sinker, and we have 2 micron repeatability from machine to machine. This has an integrated X, Y, and Z reference set here, so you can see that on the screen. You can see the Z pads and then the X, Y locating systems on the System 5000 chuck. And with this, we can use both the H5 and H6 drawbars. So there's a difference in height between the H5 and the H6, and you'll see that in the next couple slides. So some of the examples of the Hershman tooling side. The H5 drawbar that we just talked about, so this is the smaller of the two drawbars. The next one, the H6 drawbar. So the Makino tool changers all require the longer H6 drawbar. So H5 is for other OEMs, the H6 is for the Makino side of it. So again, reference palette. So the middle right there is the reference palette. So again, these can be used to make custom electrode holders. So upper right, this is one of their standard electrode holders, and it has the H5 drawbar inside of it. So we can do square around with this and use a set screw to push that into the corner. One of the nice features with the Hershman extension holder, so they have many styles of extension holders. They get longer as you go. These are nice to get down into deep areas and molding side where we can put the electrode on that shank and get into that deep area. And then the last one in the upper left corner, just a standard electrode holder. So we mounted a 50 millimeter or 2-inch graphite square there. It's been milled in the electrode machine. And then bottom left, another unique feature for the Hershman side is their horizontal holder. So we can take any of those standard electrode holders and turn that horizontally, basically 90 degrees, and use that to burn sideways. So minimizes your setup time that way. We can go 90 degrees without changing the setup. So that's all the examples we have today. We're going to go ahead and then now go out to the showroom, do some tool changes for you, and show you how these electrode holders interface with the Makino ATC on our sinkers. All right, we're now out at the showroom, and what we want to show you now is our EDAF2 high precision sinker. This has the 3R or System3R macro chuck on it. And so what we wanted to show you is the gate holder that we had shown in the presentation. We want to show you that gate holder and how it comes in off of the ATC or automatic tool change. So I'm going to go ahead and start the tool change for you and kind of talk about the chuck itself and the movements of the tool changer as we go. So we'll go ahead and get started. So with the EDAF2 machine being a drop tank, it's going to drop the tank down to a safe level. Now the System3R chuck does an airbow to check for a tool, comes over to its ATC or automatic tool change position. Over top of the drawbar, completes the tool change, and then retracts back into its original location. From there, the machine will raise the tank back to its original level. It also fills the tank, so no operator intervention needed. So you can see that 3R macro gate holder, it's now set at a 45-degree angle, and when we go to burn, that electrode is then set on that 45-degree angle, and we're going to do what we call a vector burn, or it's going to move in a 45-degree movement in the ZX direction. So you can see now the machine's jumping, so it's moving in a 45-degree angle. And then when the machine's done, it would put the electrode away in the opposite order that it brought it out. One of the nice features of all of the Makino sinkers is our universal finger. So that ATC or automatic tool change finger is common between all of the machines. And you'll see we're going to do a demo on our EDNC6, which is the medium to large sinker, and then also the Edge 2i, which is our small, very small footprint sinker, and it has that same universal finger. So we're going to go ahead and now go over to the Edge 2i, and we'll demonstrate the tool change on that as well. Okay, now we're over at the Edge 2i. So this is our smaller tool room sinker, really nice small footprint. You can see the ATC on this machine is in a small area in the casting, so really nice for space-saving design. This is our 4-station rack. So this machine also comes with an 8-station rotary magazine as the EDAF2 did. So right now we're going to show you an automatic tool change on this machine and show you some of the features of the Erowa ITS when we're doing the tool change. So I'm going to go ahead and do a tool change for you. So just like the EDAF machine, the tank's going to drop to a safe location. In this case, the magazine will come into the work area. So 4-station rack style tool changer. Same air check. And then the magazine slides out of the way. Head clears, tank returns to its original position, and the oil level comes up. So with the Erowa ITS, some nice features there. So during the tool change, you saw an air blow, basically a check and to clean the feet. So once the tool change is done, I'll show you on the chuck itself. So there's a ground area underneath the Erowa ITS chuck. This is where the feet on the tool itself contact that chuck. That's the Z-axis locator for that, in conjunction with the XY for that centering plate. So nice feature with that. Also, this is the ITS 72 millimeter pallet that we had talked about in the presentation. So you can see that it contacts the drawbar on the ITS with that universal Makino finger as well. Another feature of the ITS 72 tool holder is it has a pre-machined area you can see here with the RFID chip. So if this were in a cell controller or any type of machining situation where it uses that RFID, that's already machined into the Erowa ITS 172. So very simple, easy to use tool chain system, very safe. And you can see the 4-station rack. Here we have one of the Erowa probes. So very small, compact ATC, and can be changed during machining as well. So next we're going to go down to the EDNC6. So we'll take a walk down there and I'll show you that tool change as well. Okay, now we're here over at the EDNC6. This is our third and final machine today. So this also has the Erowa ITS chuck on it as well. Tool changer is a little different here. This is a 16-station tool changer. It uses a transfer arm to bring our Erowa ITS tools over. So you can see we have a good mix of the ITS 72, also the 50 millimeter slotted pallets, and a couple gate holders as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a tool change on this EDNC6. And then, so similar to the other two machines, we're using that same universal finger, but we use the transfer arm to go in and grab the tool by that ITS drawbar up top. We rotate over, arm extends out, head comes down, it's doing that air pressure check now. You can see the contact with the Erowa feet for our Z-axis locating position. One thing you notice when the transfer arm did the change, it went up at a 45-degree angle to clear the tank wall for long electrodes. Then when it goes back, it comes back flat. So now we're going in to do a burn. So this machine, the EDNC6, has a high-speed head or HS rib head. So this machine is capable of 20-meter jump on its jump speed or its retract jump. So when it first contacts the steel, you'll see that 20-meter jump. So you can see that very, very rapid jump as the machine burns. So the other smaller machines, 5-meter jump on the Edge 2i. This is that 20-meter jump. So HS rib, the high-speed rib machining capability. So that completes our presentation out here in the showroom. I'm going to go ahead and head back into the EC Center with Brian Coward, and we're going to go ahead and field questions then from the chat, and I'll meet you back in the EC Center. Thank you.
All right, so thanks, Dave, for that presentation. That was very informative. Demo, I want to point out before we get started here, again, if you have any chat or question, you can put it in either the chat section there or the Q&A section, either place. If you have any question, please type it in there, and we can answer any question that you have. So we are open for any questions right now. Okay. Okay. All right. So I do have one question here that came into me about the gate holder. So Dave, in the presentation, you said you had it was on a 45-degree angle. What are there other angles that you can put that gate holder at, and how do you achieve those angles?
Yep. So that gate holder is from System3R. It has a pin system, so it has some preset locations basically that a pin drops into and locks it into. It has standard ones at 15, 30, and 45. So those are preset locations. There are some other manufacturers of the EDM tooling side that have every 5-degree step, so a little bit more flexible as far as how many different positions. There are also ones that just lock. Basically, you would indicate the holder in itself, and it would lock into position. So with a screw or a set screw or something like that, where it would lock into an angle that you predetermined, and then it would move on that angle that you've done.
All right. So we got another question here. This is a pretty good question here. When would we use the compact, the Erowa compact, or the 3R combi system over the standard Erowa ITS or the 3R macro tooling?
No, that's yeah, really good question actually. So either the 3R macro combi, so the combi portion, or the Erowa compact. These are a smaller version of the system. So if you're doing small electrodes all the time with the either the Erowa ITS or the macro 3R system, it's about 50 millimeters. So as far as the tool holder goes. So if you're doing small, let's say round or electrodes like that, the compact system has the same colleted system that you saw in the presentation. So just if you're doing smaller electrodes all the time, the compact system or the combi system, it's a little bit easier. You can fit electrodes closer together because you can see in the tool changer, it does take up a lot of space. So or if you're getting down into deep areas of a mold cavity or something, these smaller electrode holders may be an advantage that we don't run into the mold itself. So still locate very well, very accurate, just a smaller system for all the manufacturers. They have a compact or like a micro system.
Okay. And then another question, we did show some of the extensions that are available for the electrodes. And Justin has a question is, what is the longest extension?
I've seen commercially purchased ones up to 6 inches long. So getting length, pretty good length. I've seen customers actually build their extensions sometimes up to a foot long. So the biggest thing is with that, when we start to get away from the center of the chuck going, on a horizontal movement. So if we're extending out, really you're putting almost a lever on the chuck itself. So any pressure on that chuck, it's not going to hold its mechanical advantage then that it's going to move. So you really have to watch the weight and then that length on the extension itself. Straight down, generally not a problem as long as the weight is within the recommended manufacturer's weight on the chuck itself for the ATC side of it. If you're doing manual, your weight will be a little bit higher. But if you're doing tool change, then that weight's going to be much lower and have to hold what that chuck is capable of weight-wise.
Okay. All right. And then another question here, is it possible to assemble 3R Mini into the 3R macro chuck?
Yep, it does have a system. So it has an adapter system to go from the Mini into the macro. You probably saw we had an Erowa ITS with a 3R 20 millimeter shank. So same thing. 3R also makes the macro holder, and then it has the hydraulic holding system for the 20 millimeter shank as well. So if you have a lot of that older 20 millimeter shank stuff,
definitely don't throw it away. Look at purchasing an adapter, and then you can use your macro chuck to run that 20 millimeter tooling as well.
Okay, very good. If there's any other questions, please feel free to type them in. I just want to point out, if anyone's thinking of a question right now while we're talking, we are going to be doing part 2 of this presentation. Today we focused on the Sinker EDM tooling, as we said. Part 2 will be in June, and we're going to go over setup techniques. And for that, we're going to be talking about how the different types of probes that are available to be used, how to utilize electrode offsets, and things like that. All right, doesn't look like we have any more questions. If you have any question that comes to mind at a later time, please feel free to contact myself or Dave Robinson, and we can answer any questions that you have. Oh, wait a minute. I think I might have a question over here. Yep, here's another one. Are all machines able to backburn and reverse polarity and put the part in the tool holder and the trode in the tank?
Yep, all the machines are capable of what we call backburn or reverse polarity. So basically the electrode holder or the electrode itself is mounted on the table, and then our part is mounted on the chuck. So in our what we call project programming system, we have an easy checkbox for that to flip the polarity. The machine also has what we call punch machining, or what was referred to in the question as backburning, where we put an electrode plate on the table and we take a punch detail and basically burn through that and create a formed shape that's the same shape as that plate that's placed on the table. So that's part of our standard technology on the machine as well, and it's referred to as punch machining.
All right, and we have another question here from Michael. He wants to know if Makino offers an automatic Erowa chuck on the table for the EDAF3.
So yes, automatic. So that would require interface. So let's say you're doing like a rotary table, or you needed to change electrodes with a robot. So we do have a chuck that Erowa provides chucks with air capability, and those are controlled generally by the robot. So also with those type of automatic chucks, you could do a switch or a foot pedal. So if you're wanting to load work pieces into a chuck, similar to like the ITS system, they have larger versions of the ITS that could go into. So like a 148 or even larger than that, up to 300 millimeter by 300 millimeter, what we call UPC pallet. So it would have a 4-post locating system. So same thing, that it would be an air chuck, and that could be loaded manually, or with the Erowa system would be like an ERC 80 robot. So yeah, it can control both the machine chuck, or what we call spindle chuck, and then the table chuck as well.
Okay, very good. Okay, that looks like that's it for the questions. I want to thank everyone for taking a little time out of their day today to join us, and we look forward to seeing everyone for part 2 in June. So thank you very much.